All right, welcome everybody to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners work session on Tuesday, August 13th. I'm Kelly McNicholas Curry. I'm going to serve as chair today while Greg Poshman and Steve Child, our chair and vice chair, are joining us remotely. And we have Francie Jacober and Patty Clapper here in the room with us. We are going to have a few presentations and discussion for the first 2 hours here, and then we will have a special meeting starting at 3:15 to discuss proposed ballot items. So I will go ahead and turn this over to staff for a presentation about the Town of Snowmass Village's Little Red Schoolhouse. Kara, should I start with you or turn it to Ashley? Okay, Ashley, hi. Do you want to introduce yourself? And then I'm happy to manage introductions in the room, or you can go ahead and do that too.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Pearl. I'm the Resiliency and Housing Director for the county. And I'm here to introduce what looks like a very robust team from the Town of Snowmass Village. So I'm excited. I'm now seeing myself in many versions. But I just want to give some background before I hand it over to Clint and Greg from Town of Snowmass Village. But as the board is well familiar, we have been talking about the county's ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act money, for close to 2 years now. The county was passed through some money from the feds, or over $4 million, and we have officially assigned all of it. The original intent from the board was that we would spend at least 50% of it to support childcare and spend the other 50% of it to support housing and other challenges in the region. And one of the reasons I believe the board decided to spend the money on childcare was that Pickens County previously hasn't been terribly active in the regional childcare space. That space has been filled by Kids First and some other entities, and ARPA really offered an opportunity for Pickens County to be a better, to have more impact in a space that we really care about. And I would say the board successfully did that. I just tallied up the numbers, which Francie did in her head last time. We ended up spending 58% of our ARPA money to support childcare. That was through the stipend program, the maintenance and equipment grant program, through a contribution to Stotts Mill, and most recently through a contribution of $208,000 to the Little Red Schoolhouse. The Little Red Schoolhouse in the town of Snowmass Village has been on staff's radar for about 2 years, ever since we knew that we wanted to spend our ARPA money to support childcare. And so I had been following along on the work that the staff from Snowmass will tell you more about. And more recently, the project, in my understanding, went from the planning phase, which planning was never really eligible for ARPA, into an upcoming construction phase, which is eligible for ARPA. So the board most recently heard from the town about the Little Red Schoolhouse opportunity 3 weeks ago now, when we finalized our ARPA funding. But at the time, the town was asking for quite a bit more money than we had available in ARPA. So the board requested that town staff come back and share a little bit more about the project history, the project need, and the request going forward for partnerships. So that's what Greg and Clint and team are here to do, is to tell you about the project and talk about partnership opportunities with the county. Since we last talked about this, just for the board's knowledge, we have reached out to our Pickens County's funding and grant specialists, and they have given us a heads up that there will be upcoming opportunities for childcare funding in the next year or so, especially around capital funding. So there will potentially be some grant funding that the town could take advantage of. And staff has extended support to the town of Snowmass Village already, and that we would help them and give them access to some of our grant consultants if they decided to go for any of that funding. So we've already been working at a staff level fairly closely to understand the project, assess what the county's appropriate role might be, and then what resources we have to support the project. So we've kind of handed over everything we can at the staff level, but ultimately the money contribution needs to come from the board level. So that's why the town's there, to tell you a little bit more. And ultimately the point of this session here is for the board to decide what further partnership might look like with the town of Snowmass Village to support the Little Red Schoolhouse childcare facility. So hopefully that gives the background. I'll turn it over to Greg and Clint and whoever else is there, and take it away.
We're going to punt to the mayor.
All right, thank you, Bill Madsen, Mayor, Snowmass Village. Thank you for your consideration. I am a huge fan of education in general, but I think early childhood education is of particular interest to everybody in Pickens County. I think the Little Red Schoolhouse provides a really unique opportunity. It's such a great space, and the facility is getting tired. It's undersized, and it's tired. The toddler center is the old Alpine Bank building, which was being used when Alpine Bank was under construction. It was moved over there, and my kids went there, and
Medical school.
yeah, right.
That's what we need to repair it.
Yeah, so it's been some time. That building was pretty tired when it was put there. By building a new facility, we're going to about double the capacity, and we're going to be able to turn Little Red into they call it a gross motor skills. It's basically a gymnasium, but we really want to provide the kids with an opportunity to be able to play, interact with the outdoors, and when the outdoor weather is not conducive, be able to play inside. So, but as you know, construction costs in the valley are always increasing in this project. Although we have downsized it, it is still really expensive at about $8 million. So we're really coming to you with the ask to help as much as you possibly can.
I loved your thing about how outdoor play stimulates the brain that you had in your packet. That was great.
Yes, and it's it's an amazing place, and we are taking up some of the space where the kids play now. But as child care facilities are, there's a park next door, but they can't fully utilize the park because it's open to the public. So that's one of the challenges. But so we want to really try to utilize all the space that we have associated with Little Red. But it all costs money, so thank you for your consideration. I'll turn it over to the team here for some more details.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too much deeper than you all want to dive into it, but I mean, just a little bit of history. The town council identified early childhood education as a top priority before the pandemic. When we all came out of the pandemic, we developed the roadmap, the statewide roadmap for ourselves, and early childhood education was one of those things regionally we said was important. And so right after that, we hired, we call it the Brodsky Report, to develop need and do the business plan for this. And so that was in about 2021. And then in that same time, we had some transition in the operations of Little Red. It went from a nonprofit run. That nonprofit could no longer do it. And so we entered into a public-private partnership with a private provider in that facility. And they continue to operate within the facility, but we know that the need, right now we serve roughly 30 kids. We know the need's considerably more than that. And so this design before you for about $8.5 million is about 60 kids. And we say about because it depends on the age and a bunch of different stuff. But in our design, we've built in plenty of flexibility to allow for kids to be younger or older and have them flex through the whole system. So what we're, as the mayor said, you know, we identified this project. We've downsized it considerably to something we think we're close to affording. We've got $6 million budgeted next year for this project. So we're looking for that last 25%-ish, you know, plus or minus. And so, you know, as Ashley said, we came in last week with a big number. Just asking really as to kind of paraphrase what the mayor said, is we're looking for partnerships. So any kind of cash contribution we could get, any kind of grant writing contribution we can get, we're open to it. And what we hope to do is take the money we've got budgeted, any money the county could provide, leverage that against the state, leverage that against federal money, and just kind of get this project up and going. Because I know we're all on the same page, knowing early childhood education is important and we need more facilities, and we think this is placed right, and we're looking forward to any kind of opportunity we can to partner with you all on the project. And we've got thousands of pretty pictures and details to share with you if you want them. We're happy to get into it, but I'm not sure how deep you want to go.
Well, the packet is great. No question about it.
Good.
Can I ask a question of Clint at this point?
Yes, please.
So of those 30 kids who are currently there, or maybe this is for Bill, how many of them are from Snowmass residential families?
I'm going to defer to Greg.
I don't think,
Both looked right at
Yeah, I
his
think-
that's why they brought me. I don't have that exact number, actually.
But if I was going to guess, half-ish.
And so how did the other kids get there?
Vehicles, cars. And right now it's on the Route 3, and so you can not easily, you could take the Brush Creek up, you jump on the Route 3 and take the Route 3 to Little Red if you're going to take the bus there. The Route 3 is a TOSV route. Raptor gets within, you're right at Owl and Brush, so a couple miles away.
And are you imagining that the number of Snowmass kids will double and then the rest will be from the unincorporated county, or what are you picturing for your
So
families who use this?
So it's private. This is the part where the public-private happens. Is our partner, it runs Woody Creek Kids, and so she takes from all the way from Glenwood up, and so it's a mix of people that work in town, that live in town. We've got people that don't work in town and don't live in town, but that's the only child care they can get. So
Sure.
it's going to be demand-based, and she's going to have to run that how she does.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of different scenarios of people who work in town, but they drop their kids at Little Red on their way into town. Some people live, much further down Valley, but they work in Snowmass Village, and they drop their kids there so they can quickly pick them up after work. So it really is a kind of a regional facility.
And only being 7 miles off 82, we know that people, like I said, that don't even work or live in town use the facility, and we hear that from our operator all the time.
And Woody Creek Kids has a bus, don't they?
And so she's got one for us too. So it's the same operator.
Okay.
I would suggest, we do have time. We do have some time, and given the request being made, it would be helpful if we could do at least sort of a high-level walk presentation from you, if you can, just so the public who may be watching and considering our discussion, but haven't read the packet, are a little more informed of what the project hopes to accomplish. If that's okay.
Can you put the attachment number 2 up? I think that's probably what you want.
Yeah, they're wanting.
Is it on this computer to pull up the packet?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm doing the
somebody
next
needs to-
one after this.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You guys want to talk about the airport? I can pull that out.
I think I could do that tomorrow for 2 hours.
I was gonna say, I just saw Jackie coming in, so. So Jackie, we're not talking the airport till 3:15.
Well, we have the
Well, it might be.
annual review.
Oh, the annual
Next,
review,
yeah.
that's what she's
Yeah,
here
we
for.
have her report.
That's right.
All right, we're just, yeah, thank you. I think it would be,
It's in the agenda. It's attached
Great.
to the agenda.
because I assume the ask to us is 2 million ideally.
Yes.
And then whatever we can put together, and so it'll be
I mean,
helpful to walk through this a
We're,
little
we're,
bit.
we're 2 million short, so we'll take all we can get. I mean, and then we don't expect to have construction until 25, so, I mean, knowing how budgets work, if this would, if you identified the 200 that Ashley talked about of ARPA money of today, and you could think about money for 2025, that would hit our timeline as well.
How have you put together the 6 million so far?
We've saved it.
Okay.
I mean,
So that's
as
just
a-
out of your town budget?
As a
Okay.
council priority, it is
Okay.
essentially general fund revenue.
Okay, so we might have the opportunity to apply for some grants that you haven't already applied for.
Exactly.
And tap funds that
Yeah,
haven't
so,
already
I
been
mean,
tapped.
energy impact, we think is the obvious one.
Okay.
2 slides down from that, please. And then the federal grants with the grant writer that you guys have identified, we think that is not something we've
And
worked at.
you know Northwest Cog has a grant writer now, too.
Jonathan, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jonathan.
and we've been in contact with him, and he's
Okay.
well aware of this project.
Okay.
And so, the best part of this is we have this happen all the time in our meetings, and I feel unspecial right now. I'm happy this happens to everybody,
Why can't I figure out how to zoom in?
because we're staring at you.
I know.
So I'll ask another question then. For the ages, is this 2 through 6 generally, or infant?
Today it is, but they're hoping to add an infant component to this.
Okay.
And so again, it's driven by market and whatnot, but as our feasibility study shows, infants are actually the most expensive but they also know that infants feed the rest of the grades. And so, working with our provider, she's convinced that infants are an important component to provide for, and this layout allows for that flexibility. So it would expand the current capacity from what we have today.
What about staffing? That's what we're
Staffing's
finding
always
is,
a challenge.
yeah, that's what we're finding with so many of the daycare centers is finding staff and keeping staff.
And adding infants increases the amount of staff you have
Yep.
to have, so
Yep.
that's a challenge. But we recognize it, and it's something we need to address.
Would your operator be hiring the staff?
Yes. So here is this, I'll give you the overview. This is Little Red, just to kind of lay out here. This is this is Owl Creek Road here. The current Little Red facility is this box right here, which is the historic red building, hence the name. And then this box right back here is the existing facility that is, as the mayor referred to, the old Alpine Bank building, and it's at least 40-something or older, 50 maybe. It's old.
It's old.
And so, knowing the constraints, we had a lot of constraints on this, some wetlands, some desire to maintain the existing park because we only really have 2 public parks, and a lot of other constraints. After working with the architect and the site team, the civil engineers, this facility is where we plan to put the next four classrooms. And so we've gone from 2 levels down to 1 level as a cost savings. We still have the 60 kids, but essentially what we do is we build this, we have a parking lot here, we're able to protect the existing outdoor playground in front, and as Bill said, the existing Little Red eventually would become the gross motors place. The rest of us call it indoor gymnasium, but people smarter than me call it a gross motors facility.
It is in itself right now, it's kind of that when you
It
go in
is,
there.
yeah.
Be really agile.
It is everything right now, for sure. Again, the access remains largely the same. We would improve the parking lot. That continues to be one of our issues. We continue to study to make sure that there's enough parking. Right now, we've provided what we think is the minimum level, 24 spaces. And so there's still some council discussion about, is that the right number or not? We don't want, it's like all parking. You want just the right amount. But the part that we've looked at different spots, we looked at building over on the park. We've looked at phasing on the park while we build new. We've looked at all these sorts of different construction opportunities, and working with the architects we hired are specifically, this is their expertise, and knowing that we didn't want to lose 30 seats while this facility was under construction. the design is this, is that we were going to build in the middle and keep both facilities operating at the same time. That adds cost, that adds time, but we keep the 30 seats open or available to the families while we're under construction. So we've looked at, we've done a lot of VE, a lot of value engineering. We've tried to get this within a reasonable thing, but the 5 units, and we can get into the specifics if you want to see the classrooms, but I think this is the big issue. Keeping it a 1-story, the visual impacts are less, and we think we can accommodate all of the other utilities and transportation needs that exist.
Great way to keep kids occupied is to have them watch a construction project.
Christina's actually,
They love it.
no, that's exactly what she's talked about. That she's got all sorts of ideas to incorporate that in the next few years.
They will all be inspired
Yep,
to grow up and be contractors.
project managers and.
Francie, and then I'll go to Greg.
Greg can go first, he was ahead of me.
Yeah, hi. Nice to see you guys online at least.
Hey.
This sounds really interesting. I just wanted to ask about the proposed, you're moving it back to a single story. Are you actually designing something that could add a second story later, or is this
No.
just going to be 1 story and that's it?
1 story and that's it.
Got it. Okay. That's my question for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, my question for now is about the parking lot. I just have a personal abhorrence of parking lots and the proliferation of parking lots. And the fact that we have all this need for affordable housing, and yet we have all these parking lots. So I did read something recently about putting solar above parking lots, which provides shade for the parking as well as the energy from the solar. So I would just ask you to at least speak to your designer about some creative use of the parking lot space, whether it's whether you can use some more space above the parking for your facility, or just anything so that we just don't have a black parking lot full of cars out there again.
Agreed. And that's why we're making it, we know that 24 spaces is the absolute smallest we need, and that's where we debated, do we want to go bigger or not, and I'll let Bill speak to it, but I think the council said, if we have to, we might get there, but let's start with no more than we need to begin with.
Yeah, I did question the 24 because most people are just dropping their kids off and then you have some staff, but you share it with the park? Is that-
Share with the park, yeah. And they are often dropping off and picking up at the same time, so you kind of need to accommodate them. We've had some conversations about, should we add another entrance so that we have one way in and one way out, which actually removes some of the parking. We haven't settled on a design yet, but we are constrained by wetlands on both the left and the right side as we're looking at it. So it's we're a little constrained, but I agree with you. I mean, if there's something that we could do to encourage more transit ridership or whatever that might be, it's but obviously with small kids, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Where is the bus stop in relation to the Owl Creek Road and the entrance?
I'd say 200 yards, right where my hand is.
Okay, I think I'm familiar where it is. Okay, that's helpful. What is the total square footage of the new building?
New facility would be approximately 5,700 square feet.
What?
5,700.
Thank you.
Kind of like a house size we have around here.
But
Way
for
more kids.
60 instead of.
Yeah,
Or would be progress.
Okay, Steve, do you have any questions? Here's-
60 kids in a house size, daunting.
Yeah.
You've had some
So,
experience with that.
Oh, that's like
I
a
have no
family
problem.
party at the McNicholas's in New Jersey, Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
So I'm definitely concerned about the pedestrian traffic from the Gamble Way stop to the schoolhouse. And I don't recall now, is there already like a sidewalk that runs there? I know the one kind of goes up behind the schoolhouse, but I can't remember what's in front of it there.
There's not, but I mean, those are issues that we know we have not brought this through our land use process yet, and so we expect to address a lot of those through that. Call it the Up Valley 3 stops right across the street and it's got sidewalk and crosswalk. It's the Down Valley 3 that does not, so it's going to depend on where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I remember driving plus 3 for 5 years. I drove up there. And we were always very cautious by the Little Red Schoolhouse, anticipating that there could be somebody crossing who's not a very good pedestrian. They're still young, never had any incidents there, but that was an area that we were very cautious.
And we've added rapid flash beacons, at least 2,
Correct.
maybe 3 in that region, because we're familiar and agree that that is a high priority for us to keep safe.
There's usually a police officer sitting there
That
too.
Yeah, and Owl Creek Road kind of drops down right there, so people do pick up speed, so we really have to make sure that people
Yeah,
are slowing
yeah.
down.
So if I could address the financing aspect of it right now, Kelly, would that be all right?
Please, go
Or do
ahead.
I need to go into that?
Yep.
So my thought is, I mean, right now, I'm sure you're aware our current budget for funding for nonprofits projects is $200,000, which isn't gonna go anyplace on your project. So we're looking at this as a special project for the county to be a partner with you, as I'm sure you're aware. And my thought on that, John Peacock suggested that we would really participate heavily in the grant writing part of it. And I'm thinking that if the grant writing probably will have a cash contribution from the, from us could be part of that. And I'm not gonna be commissioner when you get to that part, but I would say that right now, I would favor the county trying to do the cash match part of any grant stuff that we can come up with as much as we're able to.
Yeah. And
And
again,
maybe we can raise the whole $2 million on grants, but then there probably will be a matching contribution required even at that point.
if you guys could find your way to 400,000 and we're at 6 million, we think we could, again, and knowing we don't need the money till 2025 and not asking for an answer today, I think these are things we can work through, and especially with the help with the grant writing. I mean, and as the partnerships, we partner on so many things. We have vital mental health services, we've got detox, we've got the homeless shelter. These are things that we all do together, and we're just asking, we all want to tackle this early childhood education, and we just think it's a great opportunity for us all.
So I'll look to Kara or Ashley. Let me clarify my understanding. We put aside the 208,000 that was remaining from our ARPA for this project. Is that correct? Okay, even though I was going to put it in the general fund, just so you know, for COVID expenses. So glad we're here. And then if I heard 2 requests correctly today from the Snowmass team, is that one, we would approve using our hired grant writing team to help look for and apply for grants that would help fund this project, is the second ask. And then I think the third ask is, as we budget for 2025, to find out what additional monies we might be able to designate towards this. Is that?
Yes.
That I've caught those sort of 3, right?
Yes, please.
Does that sound right, Ashley and Kara? Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just to Steve's point, just for context, I think the new capital childcare facilities that is, I guess it was enacted on August 7th. Just so you all know, I think it's looking at roughly a 50% match. So as we start going through, I think that's where some of Snowmass Village's ask is kind of in supporting those matching dollars. Not to put words, is that fair?
On top of the 208,000?
I wasn't tracking, sorry.
Okay. Just know, I think Steve mentioned potentially that the county would provide help in matching dollars.
Over and above the 208.
I don't know. I just want you all to know it looks like those grants are going to have a 50% match
Okay.
request.
So if we're trying to get to 1.8 million, we need to be thinking about 900,000 for a total match for that.
And we're in for 6 million, so we can
Yeah.
meet that grant,
Yeah.
or that match.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a direction from the board for staff to, you know, we've already done the 208,000 allocation, but to do the other two things, give direction on the grant writers and in the 2025 budget.
I have a question about the 208. Was that after we had decided, we came up with that, the monies for the stipends for the teachers? So this is like this remaining fund that we didn't really have a,
Ashley confirmed.
yeah.
The board had around $500,000 remaining that needed to be assigned by the end of this year. You chose to give around $200,000 towards Stotts Mill for the last $10 to that construction. Around $160,000 to extend the stipend for a 75% amount next year and a 50% amount in 2026. And then you had $208,000 left that you assigned to the town of Snowmass Village for this project. And then we said, you know, that's it. ARPA's done. Let's bring them back and see what else we can do if there's any other funding. It would all obviously come from the general fund at this point.
Okay, and everyone knows how I feel about continuing to take money out of our general fund, since we don't have a specific funding mechanism for childcare or for housing at this point in time. We have a lot of asks coming forward from us from lots of nonprofits for capital expenditures. We do have that 200,000 we allocated this year to split up with our nonprofits. And we've had, I don't know how many come in, 5? So that many.
I think 4.
4?
I
5?
think so.
We have one more coming, and then
Lift
hopefully
up
next week we'll have
Lift up, yeah.
money will be designated. But I'm
I thought
thinking
it was
that
3 plus lift up.
we may want to talk about keeping another 200,000 for 2025 for capital projects. So that may be a pot of money we might have available in 2025. I'm very supportive of the $208,000 going your direction. Very supportive of staff in Northwest Cog grant writers. Grants are the way to go. As far as committing to matching funds, 900,000 would be a pretty good hit to our general fund. I know I'm told very frequently, don't worry, we have money in the general fund, but we keep taking money out of the general fund and we don't have a lot of money coming back into it just yet, so we have to be cautious. But I think if we do allocate another 200,000 for nonprofits and capital expenditures, that might give us some money to play with as far as matching funds. It's not gonna give us 900,000 if that's what, you hope to get with grants.
I think we're looking for closer for 4. The 208.
Closer to what?
4. The 208 plus.
Plus another 200, so maybe. So we'll have to see who next year, we're trying to fine tune this capital projects funding mechanism that we've been working on, so it doesn't drag us out for the whole year, having people come in and, kind of seeing how we do our healthy community fund and how we might want to come up with some kind of guidelines for the capital projects, and if we create one. So, but I'm comfortable right now with the 208, helping whatever we can do for grants. And then if there's a matching issue that comes up, then I think we'll need to have another conversation.
And I think we'll have more clarity as we enter into our budget process of what our
Yeah.
reserves look like, because I know I don't have a sense of that right now, and that's going to be coming to us in the next couple months. as
Yeah.
we do
Over the
2025
next couple of
budget.
months.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes, Francie, go ahead.
I just want to express again, you're not going to like it. My concern about 60 kids in one building is really serious concern. I think it's way far away from anything I ever pictured in terms of having children and raising children. And when they consolidated all the public schools in Colorado, I don't know, 50 years ago, whenever that happened, when all the sweet Boulder schools got put into big schools, and that was really concerning to me then, and it's still a concern to me that we oversize our schools, whether it's infants or toddlers or seniors in high school. I think we way oversize our schools. So I'm concerned about that. I would rather see 4 of these places with 15 kids each be proposed. And I know it's hard to make money at childcare, and so part of it about having a bigger one, I'm sure, is a question of the profit line and where, is this worth it for me to devote my life to doing this? And and then if I combine that concern with the transportation getting to Snowmass for people up and down the valley, it's hard for me to really conceive of a 60 child care center in Snowmass. That said, I'm not going to oppose providing help to you guys. I know you're trying to do the right thing. I really respect that. I know there's a huge need for childcare. I just don't love this model of childcare. We just looked at the one in Basalt. Even that one I thought was too many kids in one place. I don't think kids are the proper companions for kids to hang out with all the time. Kids their own age. They're not the best mentors for kids. So forgive me for that sort of global look at it, but I just can't help it. It's just disturbing to me to think about that. I will, of course, vote to support you in any way I can. I'm just putting that out there, that it's hard for me to approve of a 60-unit childcare center. But I do appreciate that work and the effort you're putting into it and trying to solve the problem, which is a problem.
We've relied on the architect experts, the operator experts, and really it's the demand. You guys hear it like we hear it. Parents would rather keep their kids at home probably, but they got to work. This is just us trying to, the safety net is what we're trying to provide here.
I see that.
No one's saying it's perfect, but we think it's better than nothing, and that's kind of the direction we're going.
I support you in that. I'm done. I had my say.
I would just counter, I don't know what your ideal school, but even a school like Wildwood, has 60 kids, in total. Not all at one time, but yeah, there's a lot of demand here, so I hope to partner with you on it.
Can I add, do you guys have any that you know of in-home childcares in Snowmass? Like my daughter runs out of her home in Glenwood. She has 8 kids.
I don't know who it is.
None that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and that is incredible. She's got a diverse range of ages, but she's really having trouble with the new Department of Early Childhood Education, or whatever they're calling it. Their new licensing people are making it really impossible for people to open and to maintain in-home, and that's a great level of care and teaching and one-to-one attention those kids get. But it's hard to do with all the rules and regs and the hoops you have to jump through, and they're not making it easy. So we have to resort, plus building 4 small, look at the amount of money that would cost in the land, is tough. But I remember trying to get my son into the Little Red Schoolhouse because it was on my way to work, because I lived in Snowmass and worked at AVH, and I couldn't get him in there.
Right.
I had to drive him into town and then back out to get to work.
Gosh,
but
really?
That's not
Yeah.
uncommon.
you do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, the
It's not easy.
licensing component is really tricky. We've had a conversation with the Snowmass Chapel about providing some childcare there, but they just didn't even want to go down the licensing path.
It's really
just
tough.
Super tricky.
The whole thing is an incredibly difficult issue. There's no question about it, including keeping employees.
Yeah, and that's why we went to the experts and said, show us the path. How should we go about this?
And that's what they said. This is what they said.
Right.
Well, I respect that.
Okay, great to see you.
Thank you for
Thank
consideration.
you, and we
guys.
will have more to
Great
think
meeting
about
again.
this
That was at the
fall.
airport.
Can I
meeting.
jump
It
right
was
on your
great.
next topic? Frank's is doing a great job.
All right, you heard it here.
I didn't even pay him to say that.
I know, there you go.
This is a lot of meetings. She does a
All
very
right,
good job.
that's right. I know, are you gonna stay for this
No,
one?
I'm
You're
just
on
gonna
our
Did you see how I
airport
gave the
advisory
compliment? I don't have to stick till the end of the
board.
compliment.
Okay.
Easy partnership.
All right, Clint is transitioning us to our next item, which is the annual update of the Airport Advisory Board work. Thanks, Clint. Giving a shout out to Jackie Francis, who is one of our co-chairs of that board. The chair. Oh, sorry. So please come on up, Jackie, and if there's anyone else joining you.
Fancy, I said Jack. I meant to say Jackie.
Okay, Kitty. All right.
Come on up, get yourself settled. Nice to see you.
Are you in town for a while?
Sort of. I'm speaking at a thing in Durango on the 21st, and then I go to New York for Climate Week, which
She's
is in
not
September.
riding her bike to either of
Levi
those.
from our office is going to the thing you're speaking at, probably.
Oh, down in Durango?
I was going to go, but I'm going to the Water Congress instead.
I have a very good friend in Durango, so it gives me an excuse to go see her,
that's nice.
which is awesome.
You're not riding your bike.
They want me to. I'm thinking about it. It's pretty hard. There's some big passes. So I don't think that that's gonna be
Yeah, Dan needs to be on as well.
I don't even want to drive that
possible. I
drive
know.
from
I
Uray
know.
to Durango.
It's pretty gnarly.
Oh my gosh. We did it last December and I was like, I think once is enough.
Yeah, that's not a good time because
No.
the roads are pretty sketchy.
Yeah, yeah.
She's not on?
No, she's.
Oh, she is, okay. All right.
We had to go though. We went to the Polar
I don't think
Express
so.
train.
Well, there's others
in
that are
Durango,
joining
so
in.
they only do it
Just
that
watching, but I think they need to be.
One of my first driving
cute.
experiences ever was driving over Red Mountain in a raging blizzard.
God.
And, you know, it's like, I just want to pull over, but then I'm like, well, then the snowplow's just going to come along and push me off the side. You know, it was just, it was terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible
I hate
visibility.
that feeling. Okay,
It
are we
was
ready?
back in the
Back to
day
hockey
when,
days where we had to travel around the state. Ugh.
yeah, and remember the days when the snow used to be so high on the sides of passes? Remember Vail Pass used to have like 10-foot snowbanks? We never see that anymore.
There's this climate change thing.
Okay, let's go ahead and I will turn it over to Deputy County Manager Rich Engelhardt to kick us off.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We have our members of our board here. It looks like we have some online as well. I think Meg is joining us online to help with the presentation, and Dan Bartholomew, our airport director. So this is part of the bylaw requirement that the BoCC put into those bylaws an annual report. And so this is late, admittedly, because it was supposed to take place. We had it all set up. We took it to the AAB, I believe it was in either January or February. They reviewed the slides at that time, and as time has gone on and our resources and being able to dedicate to getting this onto your agenda has been taken up with a lot of work that we've all been doing with the ALP. So we apologize for that part of it, but I think you're going to be interested to see in some of the work that has taken place. So that's why this says a 2003 and 2004 to date recap. So. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, and her and Meg can walk you through. We have also in the audience, we've got Andrew Doremus here, as well as Diane, and Jonathan. Jonathan's not part of the board, but he's certainly a participant and always at our meetings. So
Pretty interested.
pretty interested, yeah. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jackie, and she can start through this, and we'll add some color commentary if we need to, Jackie.
Okay, thank you, Rich. And yeah, we have been busy, as you all know. And I'm going to start off by saying that I want to thank the staff. They go out and get the information that we need whenever we need it. They bring in experts when we need it, and I want to thank them. Dan does a great job. Rich does a great job. It's really been fantastic working with them. And then, of course, Diane, too. Love them all. And I want to thank the AAB themselves. This is a group of people who don't usually have the same viewpoint, and we definitely have some discussions. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different sort of things that we want. We represent the community very well. We talk pretty open with each other. When we need information, we go out and find it. We are not rubber stamping anything. So I want to thank them. I want to thank them for their participation, for their passion, and for the work they've done here, because it's been a really busy year, and many of us have other jobs, and it's been hard. So I just wanted to let you know that. And I also want to thank the BoCC, because I have said to you guys a couple times that, you know, if you don't want us to dig as deeply as we do into these issues and come forward with what we recommend to you, and if you want to like look at that and say, no, I don't think you guys are right, then, you know, disband us. And you haven't done that. You've been like, yep, you guys are doing the hard work, and you do listen to us, and I thank you for that. So now let's talk about what we've done this year.
And I don't know if Meg has any, Meg, you have any little opening comments that you'd like to add to?
No, can you hear me? I'm having an audio problem.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Oh, good. No, I just ditto as I always do everything that Jackie said, and it's just really a good board. We all work well together, and I will just sit here and support Jackie as she goes through what we've accomplished over the past year.
Okay, and you guys can jump in with questions at any time. I'm not going to read every single slide. I'm just going to kind of go through some of the stuff. A lot of this is stuff you know, like we had the work session with John Bauer from the FAA, and that was here in this room. We have the airport layout plan. We had the fleet mix and the fleet mix discussion that, was some pretty heated back and forth about why we want to change the number that we originally had on the fleet mix, on the forecast, and then the fleet mix, what that included. So thank you for that. Then obviously the airport runway has been a big issue this year that we've had a lot of discussions about. The terminal landside and intermodal discussions are still ongoing all the time, and all the support facilities. And the airport layout plan has been the big thing that we've been working on this year. I don't know if you guys have any questions about that. You've been very involved in those discussions.
I just want to know when it's getting signed and sent back to us.
Well, it is currently in review. We know that for sure. So, and this is a little bit more detail on kind of those steps that led up to getting that approval itself.
So this is ongoing as well. Staff has taken the airport layout plan to the FAA. We are going through that process right now. And let's see, we've had the joint meeting with the BoCC. And then we had the change in the common ground recommendations of shifting the runway to the west side, and then of course widening the runway, and then the midfield crossings. So we've gone, to the FAA on that, gotten the right mix of things that are needed that we feel like are the best things for the community. And then of course you guys know that the BoCC has passed the resolution to move the ALP forward with the FAA.
Okay.
We have had a few terminal discussions, but we are still waiting for the airport layout plan has got to be approved in order for us to move forward with a lot of the funding on the terminal and everything else that needs to happen, as along with everything else on the land on the airport property. We have to have some forward direction on what's going to happen with the airport layout plan. But we are discussing where the terminal will be located, and moving forward with some of the steps needed for us to start with the terminal improvements.
Can you just say what that passenger terminal project delivery method is?
Dan could probably, that's
to
a process we work through with our consultant. So go ahead, Dan.
Sure, there's a handful of methods that you can use to implement a project, and that's just one of the methods, and it's geared towards reducing the number of, let's say, change orders that may occur during the process. We ran the advisory board through all the various methods, and they believed and they voted that the construction manager risk, or CMR, method was the best moving forward. So it was just one milestone we worked through to try to get us one step closer to terminal design.
Thank you.
It's a method we've used quite a bit.
I'll just add that this is Nick. I'm very, very anxious to get going with the terminal. That's my passion, and we just hope we can partner with the FAA and put some shovels in the ground and get going as soon as possible.
Yeah, bravo.
And the AAB is established. Meg is kind of that liaison contact for the AAB on the terminal project itself. But there's going to be a lot of community engagement involvement in that process.
Yeah, probably several subcommittees will be put together because there'll be a lot of input.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Okay, so the environmental criteria, pollutants and greenhouse gases. This is something that I was very involved in. This is right up my alley of interest, and we established, the baseline emissions that we're looking for and how we're going to measure them. And we've been working with the new consultant and the new staff person at the airport that's actually taking on both the noise and the emissions pieces of establishing a baseline and then the criteria to measure those things. And then that's also wrapped into the safety position as well. So I worked with Rick Heedy a lot on getting what the climate greenhouse gases, the CO2 and the methane baseline would look like. And then we also worked with the consultant on what the local pollutants and how we will measure those and how much it'll cost to put in the monitors and, all the things we would like to do locally for measuring any kind of local pollutants, and then deciding what's going to be included in those sort of baseline studies, as well as how we measure and implement those going forward. And we've done the same thing with the noise as well, and figure out where we're going to put noise monitors and how we're going to measure that, and then move forward with an implementation strategy moving forward.
Yes, Francie.
So you finish your data collection and you find out what our current level of local pollutants is, and then you set a goal. So can that goal, being an official Aspen Airport goal, then affect what kinds of airplanes are going to be allowed to fly in here?
That was
Did you really ask that question?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
As we all know, that the FAA has said a plane is a plane is a plane, and they're not going to restrict us based on
What we want.
emissions. We could certainly have the conversation, and I know that with you and Patty going to DC, and with the work we're doing on like how do we actually establish ways that can change both our local emissions and our greenhouse gas emissions, will we be able to impact that at all? It's still kind of speculative.
Well, and if I could jump in, maybe Dan, correct me if I have my assumption wrong, but I'm of the thinking that there are opportunities for mitigation that the FAA allows us to enforce, but without baselines or programming or planning, we don't have any argument to take advantage of those mitigations. I think that's true at least for noise. I don't know if that's the case for
It's true for our facilities. They offer funds to help us reduce what the airport produces, but as far as what aircraft produce, no, there's nothing out there right now. It's pretty hung up right now as far as having any rules or regulations that mitigate or manage or fine or whatnot, or restrict access to aircraft that want to come in and out of the airport based on their emissions.
I do believe that would probably be an act of Congress, Kelly, to change those kinds of standards, which actually does lead me, though, to the Lanza Tech presentation. I don't know who was here for that. I don't think Patty was here for that. But one of the things that Jennifer from Lanza Tech did speak to is that with sustainable aviation fuel in certain kind of, like, depending on the feedstock and depending on the way that the sustainable aviation fuel is created, it does lower certain types of local pollutants as well. And so there are opportunities for us to, if we're getting sustainable aviation fuel made, in the most kind of advanced technology ways possible, that it will reduce certain types of criteria pollutants. Getting deep into the sciencey stuff now. So we did have the presentation from Lanza Tech about sustainable aviation fuel, and we are moving forward on trying to do a feasibility study on whether or not we have feedstock for a sustainable aviation fuel facility and where that would be located and so forth. And I'm not exactly sure where we are, on our timeline there, but I know that is something that staff is working on.
Yeah, and I can update you just real quickly. In fact, I just got the notice from Mesa County. Their deputy director sent over their letter. The board took it up either today or yesterday and sent us a letter of support for the DOLA grant that you all authorized us to go ahead and go after, along with a $50,000 contribution towards it. So the partners are lining up. We've had a number of meetings with not only Department of Local Affairs, but the division. It's OEDIT. It's their economic division at the state. We've also had one with the Department of Energy. So we have started to really shop this around out there. And, the goal is to go for the grant. We're going after $400,000. We're matching at 50%. Looking to develop a feasibility study that answer a lot of these questions. And it's just not specific towards Lanza Tech. It's specific towards SAF and seeing if there's opportunities out there to do things. But we are taking a real strong look at a potential of a refinery on the western slope of Colorado, because Lanza Tech, I think when they came in, said they wanted to do one in Colorado somewhere. So if it happens, we're really working hard to have it on this side of the mountain, so that we can take advantage of the local airports here. So it's exciting work, and it's a lot of it has been done because of this start of this letter that went out and your all's work in DC and your contacts that you all have made. So so thank you for that base and that trampoline to start jumping off of, because it's starting to work.
Do we have the demand on the western slope to justify a plant over here?
Yeah, we do. In fact, Dan he's got all the gallon type of numbers there, but between Eagle, Rifle, ourselves, Grand Junction, we've got plenty, and that doesn't even take into account the opportunities that I bet that Montrose, Gunnison, others are going to have, because they service
What about
airlines as well.
Salt Lake?
Could be. I mean, it's a regional effort, and boy, that'd be great if it ends up crossing state lines. So
It's pretty easy to get over there.
It's a great question, Francie, because the demand in the industry is huge. I mean, all the like big airlines want to try and figure out how to get their hands on this. It's really hard to get the supply right now.
Yeah.
And I believe that our FBO currently brings it from, is it LA? Yeah, LA.
From LA, yeah.
Yeah, if we could
What's
certainly
the
get it.
feedstock out there?
Lo-
Do we know?
It's cooking oil. It's recycled cooking oil. It's
For
not really the
restaurants?
best technology. Yeah, like,
Really?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
Can't smell it. It smells really good at the airport.
Remember we had that here in the valley for a while? Somebody was collecting fuel oil and making fuel out of it. I mean, the cooking oil and
Yeah.
making fuel out of it. There just wasn't enough.
I'm not sure that's the only thing they do. Maybe Jonathan has some information on, but I do know that that's like the refinery there is known for that.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Noise. So Valerie Braun has been like head of the noise committee, and she's been doing a great job. I mean, I don't know if Dan wants to speak or Rich a little bit more to kind of how in depth they've been going with the noise program. But Valerie and Bruce Gordon have been kind of the chairs of that, and they've taken it on, and they've really put a lot of effort into, getting a baseline on the noise, getting some noise monitors stationed, and it's been great to see them really put so much effort into this.
Yeah, if I may, yeah, you're right, Jackie. Valerie Braun and Bruce Gordon both have worked extensively on the noise program, and they've moved it along to the point that we actually have an entire program scope put together. We should be installing permanent noise monitors, I believe 8 or 9 of them around the valley within the next month or so, and then moving forward with the rest of the program. So it's really moved quickly over the last several months. It's been very good.
And I noticed Bruce was on. I don't know if he
can talk now.
Bruce, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that at all?
No, it's been really interesting. We're really pleased with the progress because it was a program that we really didn't think was producing many results, and people have just jumped on it and really expedited their efforts, and I think it's in a really good place right now, especially after we met just the other day and talked about it. Valerie's been incredible, with some of her experience living where she's lived, and really motivated, and I think it's starting to work.
Good. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. And then we did accept the Fly with Integrity program that Valerie had proposed, and it really focuses on the noise and being a better airplane operator. Okay, safety has been spearheaded by Barry Vaughn, and he has put a ton of effort into this group that he's brought together, these pilots, on how to discuss the safety improvements that are going to be helpful for our airport. And they've done a ton of work, had I think monthly meetings, or even more often than that. So yeah, that came with a list of recommendations that first you guys recommended the formal appointments of this safety board, and then they came up with a really great group of recommendations, the Flight Operations Safety Task Force, and they, I believe, brought that to you guys, correct? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's been also an amazing group subcommittee. Barry reports to us on what they're doing every month during our meetings, And now they have created a kind of informal pilots group. And I think that, what's that?
Like
Someone
somebody
needs
just,
to be muted.
Yeah, Andrew and Barry are in charge of this informal pilots group and just continuing the work that they're doing with the safety. Did you want to add anything, Andrew, on like the pilots group? Okay.
there's a financial ask coming to us, maybe 2025 budget?
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit about that. They had recommended a study being done. Dan can give you the specifics on that portion of it. I want to talk about that appointed board, so just so that we're clear on that, because there's been some conversations about their role. We've been very clear that if this comes to a point where it needs to be formalized on an ongoing basis, because right now it was set up to go through this process. They made their recommendations. They wanted to stay on until we got this individual hired, which we have now. Kara is now on board with us. However, they're still finding that it's good to keep them together. So the AAB agreed to extend that through the end of this year on a temporary basis and analyze and see if this is something they really do need to formalize. And I've told Barry that if it is, then at that point, we need to come back to the BoCC with that report, open it up, take applications, and kind of start over to open it up, because these were, as you know, it was opened up to the public, and Barry did do selecting of those and came back to you guys, but it didn't follow the same process that we normally do, since it was a subcommittee of the AAB. It was set up differently. But if it goes to a more formal process, we'll be back and make sure that we follow that same process you all use for appointing formal boards.
Okay.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then I don't know, Dan, if you wanted to talk about the recent ask that could be coming forward.
So we will be taking to the Airport Advisory Board this Thursday, I believe it's an ask from the Safety Task Force to spend, it escapes me the exact amount, but it will be putting it in for a potential mid-year budget supplemental to perform a wind study, which will be the precursor to potentially putting in some additional wind sensors because of the tricky wind conditions we have around the mountains here, and hopefully may avert some incidents we've had in the past that the primary causes was changing or fluctuating wind conditions. So we'll be coming to you with that hopefully in August, September.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Let me go to Greg he's had his hand up. Go ahead.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Just looking at the first bullet point, FAA airspace management and congestion pricing letter to the FAA, no reply received yet. Could you give us a little bit more detail, just for public, on what all that letter entails, and how likely is it the FAA is going to work with us on that?
So the letter included several points that the Safety Task Force wanted to ask the FAA if they'd be willing to consider. One is a change to the classification of airspace around the Aspen Airport to require additional radio communications and radar following. There's been some others about potentially slots for aircraft to get in and out of here, to reserve some slots, things such as that. We submitted it to the air traffic control tower manager. It went up the chain for quite a while, and then it came back that it needs to be submitted to a different part of the FAA. So we've submitted that to another branch of air traffic control, and we're still awaiting a reply. So they're really not asks, so to speak, but there are questions that they have for the FAA and want to just get a response on.
Great, thanks, Dan. This is important stuff. I think that, you know, if we actually could somehow create slots for commercial aircraft, that could probably relieve a lot of the stress that people in the community feel. And I certainly want to keep on this, and it's unfortunate that it went up the one chain in the FAA, but they didn't talk to the other chain, or, you know, they sent it back to us, because it sounds like colonial bureaucracy to me. But I appreciate your keeping it, trying with it. Thanks.
Sure.
And then as a clarification point, or just distinguish between these, Andrew Doremus, as Jackie had mentioned, has been, I mean, I think it was his very first meeting and they put him to work with this local pilot group, but it's somewhat separate from this safety task force, because the safety task force, really their focus is on that safety component. The local pilots group is looking at all kinds of operational ideas and thoughts there, and that's just an open group. It's not a formalized committee at all. And Andrew and is it Gordon? You and Gordon? Yeah, Bruce Gordon. I can call him Gordon again. Bruce are kind of the liaisons for that, and I think it's really helping. It's really brought forward some ideas. It helps Dan and his staff, Diane and Kara, to have those kind of conversations. So I think there's a lot of progress that's been taking place here. So that's just a kind of building on what's happened there.
I mean, I'll just remark, it's huge progress. It's, you know, I feel like when I started, it felt like the airport was just a black hole of like, no one knows what's happening over there, and you have to be on the in, you know, to even have a sense of the activity over there. So this is a big change.
And I'm going to add that we did have a couple conversations about, you know, a reservation slot system, and at one point Howie, who's in the picture right there, kind of wanted to take the lead on this, Howie Mallory. And I mean, Dan can jump in or whatever on this, but until we have some clarity on the runway and the airport layout plan, it's really difficult to speculate about the whole, like, what's going to happen with a slotting system. We just can't really, like, put that cart before the horse, if that makes sense.
So my question was
Go ahead.
about
Sorry.
the wind. That's
Mhm.
okay. Unless, Francie, you had one to tag on to
No, I
this.
don't think I'll ask mine. I don't need to.
Well, the wind, it's my understanding, and Dan and maybe Andrew can, one of the issues we have is there's kind of a time delay with the wind tracking, so pilots don't have enough heads up on wind changes in order to make conscious decisions about landing or taking off. So these new wind monitors will help eliminate some of that time delay. It's the only thing I can think of calling it.
No, that's correct, Patty. And, you know, oftentimes we'll get conditions where the wind will be blowing one way at one end of the runway and another way at the end of the runway. So
And a different way in the middle.
It becomes a bit of a pucker moment when you get halfway down the runway and all of a sudden the wind is, you're getting a tailwind as opposed to a headwind. So we've had some incidents in the past, one being the Hawker jet that went up the end of the runway 2 President's Days ago. And that they think that was a wind shear or wind direction change incident. Hopefully something like this can just at least notify pilots of you may want to not depart, the wind conditions aren't favorable for you, things like that.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you to define that term you used, so.
We all know.
I know. I was going to make him define it publicly, but I'm not going to.
Talking about puckering up for a kiss, I know.
Hey, Kelly, can I ask another quick
Yes,
question?
please, go ahead.
Just regarding the pilot group, you said it was open. I just want to make sure the public knows there are pilots out in the community who probably aren't in the loop but might like to be. Do they have a way of accessing and joining this group?
Sure. What we've been trying to do is the individuals that are leading sort of this pilot group, we've reached out to them and told them that, you know, we would appreciate it if they would liaison with all pilots, especially base pilots here, to be invited to the meetings. So I think that's a bit of a work in progress, gathering all the individuals and the names and the emails and everything. But it's getting there.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Well, that
Francie.
leads me to what I was going to ask. So isn't there a pilots association or something here that a lot of different people belong to, Andrew? There's not?
No, they're closest thing there ever was, there was the.
He needs to
Andrew,
come
you're
up.
probably gonna have to come up to
You
a
have to
mic.
come up to a mic.
Sorry.
I know you didn't want to, but there you go.
He gets so shy.
Andrew Doremus, yeah, we've all met. No, the closest thing we ever had was the air rescue group a long time ago. And then it's all kind of fallen on the wayside, but because of Tyson Wise, he started a couple of years ago, the Pitkin County Pilot Group, and it started slow, and everybody's been reaching out to each other. I think the numbers, I don't know the exact number, it's more than 50, less than 70, somewhere in there. So the numbers have grown, and it's pilots that not are only in and out of here, but it's also most of the based pilots. And there's pretty good attendance at the meetings, probably 30 to 40 every time they have a meeting. So the interest level is pretty good. And the input's been really positive, you know, and it's helping Dan and, work together with the leases regarding parking and all this, and safety issues and traffic issues, and it's a whole different side of the airport compared to the corporate side, compared to the commercial side. So there's actually three sort of little worlds out there, and that's just one of them, and they've been really good. Does that help?
Yeah, that's really good to know.
Anything else?
Can't
promise there won't be.
Okay.
Wait a minute, there is a formal pilots group that we received letters from.
I know, that's what I was, that's why I
that's
asked.
AOPA, I
National
think, is what
or-
you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, you want to explain AOPA?
Oh, yeah, sure. AOPA is an industry group representing many general aviation pilots around the nation. Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association is what their acronym stands for. So yes, they are watchdogs, if you will, in the industry to make sure certain rules and regulations are met, or they are try to sort of enhance the positions of general aviation groups around the country. So that's what their letter was that reached out to you. So you'll probably hear more from them as we proceed through the lease agreement with the FBO and changes to the airfield, et cetera.
Thank you.
We good? Keep going.
Okay, I'm just gonna move on.
Oh, Greg has his hand up again. Greg?
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, and this might come at the very end, and I'm throwing this out. I've just been reading about Boulder and what they're trying to do with their airport and shutting it down, and they're suing the FAA over that. Has the AAB ever discussed the possibility of suing the FAA to get them to pay attention to some of the requests we're making regarding discrimination, other things that just don't seem kind of like bad fits for us, that we really like to get their attention and try to make some changes? Has it ever gone as far as contemplating filing a lawsuit with the FAA? I want to ask that because I know it's going to come up. Thanks.
Can I respond really quickly? I'm not sure now's a good time to be threatening to sue the FAA. We need a partnership here moving forward. Not that it couldn't come up somewhere down the road somewhere, but right now we need to be nurturing a good relationship, because I'm reading a book called The Bill of Obligations, and it talks about to be a good citizen, you work on compromise and work on working together on things in order to get things moving forward and done. And it's amazing what you can win on your behalf if you learn to compromise, so it comes out a win-win at the end of the day.
Well, and I'm just
Thanks,
gonna
thanks
say,
for that, Patty. I definitely want to read that book, but I also want to know if any of that has ever been discussed by the board. Thanks.
so for the record, no, we have not discussed going that route. I would think that might be something that the Board of County Commissioners would probably want to I don't know that we'd go out on that limb on our own, because that's a pretty precarious limb.
Okay, thank you. Greg, did you have another question?
Not right now. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so speaking of communications, we have definitely worked a lot harder on getting the communications as to what the AAB is doing and why they're doing it out in a lot of different areas of, information. We have the enhanced website, which hopefully is getting more people interested in what the AAB and what's happening at the airport. Public House, we've got the dashboard that shows, the financial and operational data. And we have these subcommittees that are, the noise, the multimodal ground transportation, the safety, the terminal design, and we report out and the environmental, and we report on these monthly. And we definitely are transparent in our meetings. We have them open to the public. They are videotaped and on the website. And we're pretty open and honest about everything we're doing there. We're not trying to do anything behind the scenes at all.
Can I ask one quick question? And I'm out, maybe Diane can. Do we have on the county, on the general airport website, a link to the recent, a meeting that Snowmass Town Council had with Dan Bartholomew and Bill Tomsich. That Snowmass Town Council meeting was excellent.
I don't-
And it would be great if we could put a link to that. It's really a meeting worth watching.
21st Century Airport does have a link on their website.
Yeah. So, but I think it would be great if we had it on our county airport website.
I definitely encourage people to like learn more and really know what they're like.
That was a great interaction between Dan and Bill Tomsich and the Snowmass Town Council.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, let's see. Our accomplishments, administration items. Okay, so we have gone through all these administrative discussion items throughout the year and a half that we're talking about. We've done the recommendations for, I don't know much about the retaining wall. Was I not at that meeting?
You were not at that meeting.
Yeah. Meg?
No, I'm sorry. Did you ask me?
Yeah, Meg, we at the last
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
Dan brought that.
we actually had quite a lengthy discussion about the wall and two engineers giving evaluations of what was happening and pictures, and it was rather disturbing to see that was happening, but they're definitely into repairs and all is going to be well at the end, Dan, right?
Yep, all will be well. And by the way, that's another supplemental you'll see coming your way. So.
Can I ask where the wall is? Because we've repaired
Sure.
one wall out there some years ago. Is it the same
Yeah,
wall?
it's a retaining wall that's on one side of the, you know that green roof we have on the back side?
Yeah, we've repaired that
So it's
once
one-
before.
We did.
Yeah, we did some minor repairs to it just to kind of limp it along. It's finally gotten to a point where it might be pressing up against some electrical boxes. So we took that to the airport advisory board to get some ideas on, did they want to just sort of a superficial replacement, a full replacement, what it should look like, things such as that, and we got pricing as well. So they agreed with one of the remediation methods, and we'll be bringing that to you all as a quarterly supplemental in the next couple weeks.
In that previous work, Patty didn't address some of the underlying issues behind the wall. This is the extensive
okay.
fix.
I just
Yeah, there was some things that had to be done.
remembered a
that you all
wall out there,
approved.
and it's coming back to
Yeah,
get us again.
it's the same wall.
And I don't know if it's okay for me to mention at this point, but, you know, the money needed to do all this stuff is, like, important. And the runway and all that kind of stuff. So, obviously, moving the airport layout plan forward is how we're going to access a lot of the funding that we need. Because there's a lot of things that need repair and replacement and improvement at the airport.
Yes.
I think we all know that. Okay, so we had a couple changes. One member, Rick Heady, resigned because he wasn't spending that much time here. And then we appointed Michael Solons, who moved up from an alternate position. And then we got a new alternate, Andrew Dreamis. And I guess we can say that we reappointed Meg and myself for whatever crazy reason.
Crazy reasons on your side or on the board side?
Meg's great, maybe not. And like I just want to emphasize that everybody's doing a really great job. And we don't necessarily agree. We definitely discuss things and really work through stuff. So it's a good group.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate
Go
you
ahead.
guys.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and we appreciate that. And I think there's nothing better than a board that doesn't always agree and has good conversations. I think at the end of the day, you come up with more creative responses, results, and I think that's a benefit to everyone. And you guys do work hard. I know how much work you guys put in, staff and appointed board members and staff and the county as a whole is standing behind this in your work. So thank you.
Yeah, and we take it seriously. These are big decisions for our community, and everybody knows that, and everybody really, really thinks thoughtfully and thoroughly and deliberately.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or comments at this time about our annual
Great
update?
stuff.
You guys are busy.
Thank you,
This is a
Jackie.
very
Thanks,
busy
Meg.
volunteer
Thank
board.
you.
Thank
You
you.
can come back at 3:15 if you'd like to.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Jackie.
Good to see you.
job.
Good to see you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Meg.
Doremus.
Nice to hear you. And yes, we will be having a conversation about ballot measures related to the airport in a special meeting starting at 3:15. For now, let's go ahead and, does anyone need a break, or can we move on to open discussion and future agendas?
I think we can move on.
Move on.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to a review of our future agenda calendars. And I will look to staff to see if anything has changed from the packet material.
I do not believe so. I think we focused this past week, in fact, Greg and Steve, you can certainly talk to that. We focused mostly on the next two meetings that you all were having and making sure, oh, actually Kelly joined and Greg popped off just to make sure we didn't have a quorum there. So discussed just kind of the future meetings coming up. We didn't get past the last two or these upcoming meetings. So.
Okay. I will just check in with the board in preparation for tomorrow. There's quite a number of people in the public who are wishing to participate on the items we've noted for public hearing for related to the ballot. And I'm just curious if members of the board think that you will want to have significant discussion on the consent calendar related to the abatement petitions. If anyone, if you have
I
had a
found it
chance
very
to-
confusing because of the way it's on the agenda. There was like one AIS, agenda item summary, and then it was hard because, I print them out and it was, yeah, so hopefully it was hard to figure that out. But I read through them all and it's all pretty clean for me, but.
Okay. Just because I know there's people who are like, well, do we join at 3 or do we join at noon or do we,
You know,
so
if you can
give a
forecast
best-
that, you will be the chair next year.
Yeah. Well, I was guessing between 1 and 1:30, we would be starting on the.
Really? That
ballot
early?
Measure items. Greg, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't have any, I don't see any big issues with the abatement hearing, so I think we're gonna get through that fairly quickly, and I certainly hope we can, because we know the main event will be coming up, and we're gonna need some time for it.
Okay.
I do have some other agenda issues.
That was my question. Thank you, Patty.
Me
Go
too.
ahead.
Oh, not agenda.
So, on the 20th work session, we're going to be discussing the record of decision in executive session, yeah? And then we're also doing the discussion with the entrance to Aspen, Castle Creek Bridge, with, I think, City of Aspen staff. I'm just wondering how it's going to play in with what the city's doing some pretty significant discussing of that. So we still feel like we need to jump into that fray right now, or just food for thought. I mean, because that's coming up our meeting to discuss the issues that they're still whirling around.
Yeah, and I believe you all had requested this a while back to get on, and now all this has
Yeah.
kind of transpired since that point in time.
Okay, so if the board.
I would like to have this meeting. I mean,
Me
it's
too.
been a long time that we've requested.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it, we don't really even know what we'll be discussing right now. The record of decision, I do think we need some legal advice on where we stand in that process, which we will be having an exec, so. And then the other thing, Rick, this was on the regular meeting on the 28th. It's item number 7, is the second reading of the ballot question regarding the landfill, and it's my understanding we're doing the second reading tomorrow.
No, I believe what had ended up happening in that conversation. Do you want to talk to it, Kelly?
Yeah, so Rye advised that we needed to do another first hearing on the landfill question tomorrow because the one we didn't include the numbers, and that he considers it a significant enough change
Okay.
from that first reading to have to do it for first reading
Okay,
tomorrow.
because I wasn't in on that
Right.
discussion, so I'm going, why are we doing another second reading on the 28th? Okay. That's what happens when you don't hear those discussions, you get confused. The other one, too, is we're going to do a joint meeting with Open Space and Trails to discuss the Brush Creek AABC bridge situation. We're doing that in September. I have some issues I just wanted to ask the board before that meeting. I have some financial questions. Should I just run them by myself, run them by Gary Tannenbaum?
Yeah, we can certainly talk about that timing. I know that the city's going to be taking up a conversation. You all are going to take up a conversation. The Open Space and Trail Board, I think, are also going to do the same. So,
We're gonna be, it's a part of our joint
whatever
meeting
you
with
have,
them.
get it to Gary in advance.
Okay. And my question, just so the board knows, are what kind of impacts, if we do these bridges, are we gonna see on the existing Rio Grande Trail? Are we gonna have to pave it? Are we gonna have to maintain it? Are we gonna have to do more enforcement on it with people getting electric bikes and trying to get their 30 minutes of free, we cycle in? We're gonna, there's some other costs I wanna see part of this moving forward that just aren't direct costs to the bridge, but unintended consequences. But I know Gary was out of town. I think I saw Suzanne, so
Yeah,
I think they
he's
must
back.
be
He was
back.
on the meeting this morning.
Okay, I'll try and send him something too, Rich,
Okay.
between the two of us.
All right.
Tom
And-
Milberg had similar questions.
Yeah,
too,
they're
so
kind
that
of stemmed off of
reaffirms
talking
those.
with Tom and his. And then we're gonna do a jail update in September, I think on the 10th. And Dan Fellon's bringing that forward, not
Well,
the
it'll be the
committee? or-
team. I mean, Dan has been involved with Alex and the sheriff. They've all been a part of the entire team that's been reviewing that. So.
I saw they were having a meeting, but that other group is disbanded?
We have not met, I think, waiting for direction from the sheriff on what direction he wanted
So
to go.
we'll be brought up to speed then on that, because I'm like, where's everybody else coming for that? And then I had something with the city of Aspen, but we're gonna talk about our future agendas with them, because I think we need to bring up the funding for the winter homeless shelter when we have our joint meeting with city of Aspen. It might be a good time to ask them why they're not funding it.
Yeah, I'm very unclear on exactly what data they need to see.
Well, and somebody said they
Related to
had other
homelessness
uses for the
solutions.
funding, and so, but anyway, I just didn't want to forget that, so I'm good, thanks.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to flag sometime around the 5th of September, Representative Judy Mobley may be coming up to visit us. And since she's putting forth the backcountry rental, cabin rental, bill, we thought it would be a great opportunity to speak with her. So Levi and I think Kelly, you are on the loop, and sending her an invite to come talk to us sometime around the 5th of September. We don't have a date yet. We don't have a confirmation from her, but she suggested that date. So just wanted to give you a heads up that may be coming up in early September.
Day of the week is that? Tuesday?
Thursday.
It's a Thursday. We have meetings Thursday morning, so.
Thanks, Greg.
Right. It could be it could be just, one or two of us. I don't know. We'll keep you in the loop, and it's kind of working with her schedule. And then I had a couple just open discussion items about budget things that are coming from various groups.
Any other future agenda items?
The only one I see here that was in the notes, I'm sorry, was the employee picnic on the 21st.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's noticed for the board to go.
Yeah, we asked about it last week. We asked if
I
it'd
won't
be
be there.
noticed.
I'll be
Okay.
at the Water Congress in Colorado Springs.
Okay, all right. And then on the jail, I do know that talking with Alex, that may not be a permanent slot for that conversation with you all. We just need
Dan
to
was just
chat with them
reserving
first.
it. He came
Kinda
in
see
and
where
was
things
gonna
are.
have Sam reserve a spot, and I said he really needed to go through
Yeah,
the chair and vice chair and staff,
Yeah.
not just directly to Sam.
okay. All right.
And Kelly?
Yes, Greg. Yeah, go ahead.
Just thinking about the conversation with the city on record of decision and the entrance, I don't want to put it off, but as things have kind of been in flux and are moving around, it could be that this scheduled meeting might just end up being too soon for one reason or another, and so it wouldn't surprise me if they ask if we put it off a bit or someone else does. On that note also, I know RAFTA is just trying to understand how all this is going to affect transit, and we're hoping to get a briefing with RAFTA and the RAFTA board in September as well on this. But so it occurs to me that briefing might just have to get rescheduled just because the information isn't there yet or is evolving. But we can wait a little bit before we lock anything in. Thanks.
Okay. All right, let's move on to open discussion items. Rich?
Okay, let me pull that up again here. I believe the one that is in here is a letter of support that you all, I believe, should have received. If you didn't, I know we
Greg
have
and
printed
Steve,
ones
did
here.
you, is this the Northwest Cog EV charging letter? Rich?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
did you, Steve and Greg, did you all receive the draft letter to Secretary Buttigieg?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
I
I'm
had
sorry.
received it a few days ago as
Okay.
chairman of the RTCC, because they were asking the RTCC to endorse it also. So I've already seen it, and then I did get the letter that Charlotte sent on to us.
Greg, do you want to take a minute to look for it in your email?
I'll go look for it and we can get back on that, sure.
Okay, and if, Rich, you want to go ahead and just summarize it?
Yeah, sure I can. So it's a grant application that Northwest COG is putting together on a regional effort for EV charging stations around the area. They have asked us to participate because of the chargers at the Brush Creek Park and Ride. We also have submitted for a second go-round the grant that EOTC sponsored that was for the EV chargers, same chargers. Our grant writer said it probably doesn't hurt to have both in and kind of see where it goes from there. So we do have kind of competing applications in there. The regional one, they think, may carry more weight in their decision-making process, but from our point of view, it's a win-win either way. If they kick one out and we get the other, we get them anyway. So we're asking the board to continue to support this. You've already supported the one that was sent in, gosh, it was a year ago. And all we did was just re-up it. They asked us just to re-up. So there was no request to redo a letter or anything. So that's what this is.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Greg, do you have your hand up in relation to this or other open discussion?
I just had some other open discussion just on, I've been getting budget increase requests from RWAPA for our aquatic nuisance species contributions as well as
Hang on
our
a sec,
dues.
Greg, let's
Things
just.
like that.
Okay, we'll get
Okay,
to you.
You'll get to me later. Okay, a couple things like that.
Okay, cool, thanks. Any questions for Rich about this letter to Secretary Buttigieg? I didn't say that right. No? Okay, go ahead with that.
I just call him Pete. It's easier.
I don't have that letter. I'm not seeing it in my email here, unfortunately, so I haven't seen it yet, but I can.
I don't think you need to say it, Greg. Your signature's on it. It doesn't really matter, does it?
It was handed out to us this morning.
Just got it. Thank you, just got
Okay,
it.
okay. Rich, any other open discussion with you?
That is it. Thank
Okay,
you.
I think Francie had her hand up next. Francie, go ahead.
Yes, it's not on that letter, though. It's on
No,
the
no, we're
place.
on the
Okay.
next- we're on
Yeah,
the
we got a
next.
letter from a guy at Lazy Glen saying that CDOT is willing to add a merge lane at Lazy Glen while they're working in the canyon, and they're just waiting for a request from the BoCC.
I sent it on to Brian Pettit, the letter to find out if that's true, that CDOT's ready to put in a lane or not.
And did you hear back from him?
No, I have not heard back from him.
I heard from Brian, I heard back from Brian, and he said that our board needs to give him direction to write the letter, and he'll do it. I'd like to give him direction.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, he has direction. Will you pass it on to him?
I will.
I just wondered if Brian had heard anything about it. That's because it was news to me that CDOT's willing to put in a lane, and we hear from this gentleman and not from CDOT.
Brian's, the conversation I had with Brian was that there seems to be an interest in doing something like this.
So he was aware that
So
CDOT is
yeah,
now offering.
yeah, I think it surprised him a bit, but, so he needs your direction, which it sounds like you guys have given.
I'm surprised
To
it
send the
surprised
letter,
him.
so, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I know
it
I've
seems
brought up
easier
that.
than you would think it would be. Like, oh, we just have to ask for it? That's.
Because I've brought up that intersection quite a few times, and I know other people have as well.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it since we took over the
Maybe
trailer
we'll get
park
lucky and it'll be
20
easy.
years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Rich.
Mhm.
Francie, did you have other open discussion?
Well, if I did, I've forgotten right now.
Okay.
I'll try to
We can come back.
come back to
Okay.
my brain a little bit.
Why don't I go to Greg then? Greg, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Just regarding Lazy Glen, that was for the uphill turn lane, up valley turn lane, I think is what they're talking about there.
Yeah.
Also, a fishing guide, local fishing guide alerted me that the water treatment plant at Lazy Glen was overflowing again, and effluent was going into the river, and it was very concerning to the fly fishermen there because it was visible and it was orally, you could smell it. And I did contact public health, and Kurt noticed that they had not received their final approvals for that, the rebuild they did on their water treatment plant. And so there's some missing permits down there, and public health is looking into it. I just wanted to alert you because you may hear more about it. I don't know if the problem will have gone away by now, but it's something we should be on top of, and staff should know about this as well, beyond just public health. That's one. Second thing was that, Ruwapa is just gonna have, some budget requests this year coming in for one, Ruwapa's dues, but plus the aquatic nuisance species program, which is, Rudai is still free of aquatic nuisance species, but they're interdicting them, and we know the Colorado River has the mussels in it now, which is very concerning. So it makes keeping Rudai clean all the more important. And additionally, QQ is going to increase our dues a little bit as well, and I just want to give heads up. I'm hoping that their ask is going to be synced up with our budget cycle so that we can approve it in a timely manner and make sure they keep going. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate all that. Patty, do you have any open discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, Francie.
Did Highway 82 open near Glenwood?
Mhm.
Yes, it did. I've been trying to find the answer to that, and I can't.
Steve, do you have any open discussion items?
No, not today.
Okay.
I asked the sheriff's office, Francie.
Me neither. Francie, have you thought of what you forgot?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I'll
We
see
will
you
have
all
open
again
discussion
soon
tomorrow
enough.
as well, if it.
Yes,
if you remember
exactly.
it. All right, well, we're a little ahead of time, so why don't we go ahead and since I know there's great interest, we have a big break, don't we? Our meeting is not scheduled to start until 3:15, and I think we should honor that given the community interest in this topic. And so let's go ahead as a board and take a break now until 3:15.
Wow.
Okay, thank you all. See you in 30 minutes.
You go upstairs and try to figure out, you can take a nap.
this kid gloves junk. This should have been done years ago, and
want a hard copy?
We are figuring out audio, period, and we're waiting for...
Now I just...
We'll just go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Great. Welcome back, everyone, to the Pickens County Board of County Commissioners meeting on Tuesday, August 13th. It has been our work session today, but I am going to now call a special meeting of the BoCC for the purposes of considering individual consideration items and to have a first reading and set for second reading and public hearing. A resolution of the BoCC submitting an amendment to the Pickens County Home Rule Charter of the Registered Electors of Pickens County, Colorado, at an election to be held on November 5th, 2024, which amends Article 2 of the Home Rule Charter to authorize and empower the Board of County Commissioners to approve and implement a physical layout and attendant regulatory plan for the Aspen-Pickens County Airport that meets local and federal regulation and requirements, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in the Pickens County Home Rule Charter. And I will note that we were advised by our acting county attorney, Rye Neely, to hold this discussion as a special meeting today so that we can take action on the proposed resolution. And our intention is to continue today's first reading to tomorrow, August 14th, when we have our regular voting session. We will revisit the first reading on this again tomorrow, and we will take public comment on this item tomorrow. And by the nature of this work, was intended to do in a voting session and not in a normal work session that we have on Tuesdays. And so that's how we got here today. And I will turn it back over to Rye for further introduction on the content at hand.
Thanks, Kelly. So, a wordy title of a resolution, no doubt. What you have in front of you is a resolution of the board submitting an amendment to the Pickens County Home Rule, submitting an amendment to the Pickens County Home Rule Charter to the voters. That is language from the Home Rule Charter on how the board pursues an amendment to the Pickens County Home Rule Charter. You submit that proposed amendment via a resolution, which is what's in front of you now. You have your AIS, which put together at the end of last week, your resolution, which can be fleshed out more if you would like. It's pretty straight and to the point. The real substance of the discussion today is in Exhibit A to the resolution.
An extra pencil or pen.
And Exhibit A is a consolidation of some language that the BoCC has asked to be a starting point, or perhaps an ending point, or some other launching point for today's discussion. The resolution can be amended to reflect changes to the exhibit, but the exhibit is essentially made up of 2 points. One is the ballot title and submission clause, which on Exhibit A is the first paragraph, which has a referendum, 1, and then a blank. That is to be filled in by the clerk and recorder's office. And it's essentially a BoCC referred home rule charter amendment. The submission language is the portion of the language that begins with shall there be, and that continues with the language that will actually be on the ballot. Is this first paragraph. Yep. Everything under text of the proposed amendment is just that, the text that would ultimately end up in the Pickens County Home Rule Charter in section 2.7.2. So that's the way it's laid out right now. As I mentioned, this is language that I have thrown together based on some conversations that we've all had up to this point, acknowledging that it may or may not accurately reflect what each of your positions may be or may not be on the overall topic. So I'm prepared to update this language if necessary, make changes to it, whatever it is, and have that ready to go for your discussion tomorrow when you may or may not approve it on first reading, and set it for second reading on August 28th. Where August 28th meeting is noticed as a public hearing. The board has decided, I believe, to take public comment on this particular resolution during tomorrow's regular meeting as well. So I'm assuming that the chair will do that when the action item is called up, not at the beginning of the meeting. So for those folks watching it, that's when the board will take public comment, I assume.
That's
So.
correct. Can I just ask, do we have any idea how many people are tuned into us? I just want to see.
We've got 3 attendees right now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I'm not sure, I'm happy.
Can I,
yes,
may
please.
I request you, please, Rye, because we scheduled this meeting today based on advice from conversations that happened in executive session.
Sure.
And so I think it would be helpful to explain to the public, like, why we're here and the conditions related to the other ballot question that have led us to discussing putting on our own question.
Sure.
Thank you.
So the reason we're starting with the resolution today during a special meeting is because it is a discussion of a proposed action item for the board. The action being approval or disapproval of this resolution. Today gives the board an opportunity to work through this language in a public forum where you can have a discussion about what you would like this language to say from a policy perspective. Of course, if the board wants to get into a discussion with the county attorney's office or myself about potential ramifications of this language with respect to FAA enforcement or regulations, we can always call a executive session during this meeting to talk about that if we want. But this language is a result and an outgrowth of a conversation that began in executive session evaluating potential legal ramifications of a citizen-initiated amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter. That citizen-initiated amendment was submitted to Ingrid's office, the clerk and recorder's office, and she validated a sufficient number of signatures for that particular proposed amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter to be placed on the November ballot. There is a resolution in your packet tomorrow, and that is similarly a 2-reading resolution that will fix the ballot title for that particular citizen-initiated amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter. So that'll happen contemporaneously with this approval process as well, assuming again that the board wants to move this ahead tomorrow based on whatever language you work through today. That language will ultimately be set or fixed and placed on the ballot in the fall with this language if the board so chooses. So that's how we got here today. The citizen-initiated amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter in its most basic, and you'll see I set this out in the agenda item summary for today, essentially seeks to divest the BoCC of its authority over certain aspects of the airport, specifically the design and physical layout of the airfield, and requires the board to submit to the Pitkin County electorate any plan to expand the existing runway or relocate it beyond what it's set out in the initiated petition is beyond the runway layout as of January 1, 2024. But that layout essentially exists today. So that is the substance of the initiated amendment to the Home Rule Charter.
Can I ask you a question? about the
Please, go
wording?
ahead.
So I would like to suggest some commas and semicolons to make this clearer, if
Do
that's
it.
okay with you, Raj.
Sure.
I think the way this reads sounds like this. To approve and implement a physical layout, including the location and design of the airfield and attendant regulatory plan for the Aspen-Pitkin County Airport that meets federal and local requirements, semicolon, improves safety, reduces air, noise, and carbon pollution. So the improved safety has a semicolon because reduces air, noise, and carbon pollution. That is one phrase and it has commas in it. So that means everything else has to be with a semicolon. Are you with me?
I am.
Okay.
And remind me, you were a teacher before,
No, I
correct?
love grammar. I love this.
And then decreases vehicle traffic to and from the airport, semicolon. Updates, not update, but updates.
Thank you.
Infrastructure, semicolon, and manages growth consistent with community values. And to take necessary actions to secure and maintain federal funding for these improvements, blah, 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 blah. Like, because the first time I read through it, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I think that helps make it more clear. It's really awkward with all this list in it to tell what's a phrase and what's part of a phrase. So I think that does it. I think we might need more semicolons, but then we get confused with that list. So I'm pretty sure what it says is that meets federal and local requirements, stop, improves safety, stop, reduces air, noise, and carbon pollution, stop, decreases vehicle traffic to and from the airport, stop, updates infrastructure, stop, and manages growth consistent with community values. That's what it's supposed to sound
All of
like.
your stops would be semicolons.
They would, because they're separating each of these things.
Yes.
So that just, and if we change all the wording, that's just fine. I just wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly.
I believe you are. The desire to have these things listed in here is at the discretion of the board.
Yeah.
So I want to just step back for a minute. So the petitioners, people are paying attention, but some people may not be. So the petitioner's question says that our powers are limited related to expansion and relocation of the runway unless approved by the voters.
Correct.
The referred measure is that question to the voters. So the language we have in front of us, it's 3/4 of a page, but I just want to be clear, what's on the ballot is only the first paragraph.
Only the first paragraph is on the
That
ballot
Francie just
as
read.
it's currently drafted. And to be clear, the initiated petition is an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. This is similarly an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. To some extent, the language presented in here is more of a reaffirmation of the board's power and jurisdiction and authority over the airport. Put another way, if the Home Rule Charter amendment that the petitioners have proposed were to not pass, then it got no votes, this language would not be necessary in order for the board to take some action out at the airport to amend the airfield
Right.
layout.
Well, what would happen to the Home Rule Charter if theirs doesn't pass and this does?
It would be changed to add this section that is down here, the text of the proposed amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter.
But it would be meaningless because all that already is true, correct?
It would be, it
Moot.
wouldn't be meaningless, but it would still go into the Home Rule Charter, for sure. This language would go into the Home Rule Charter. So it would be a further statement of the board's authority over the airport, I suppose.
Okay. It'd be an affirmation of some other part of the charter.
Yes, the Home Rule Charter and state law currently vest the BoCC with authority over the airport,
Okay.
including the authority to change and plan and design the airfield layout, along with our partners at the federal government and, to the extent the state's regulating the airport, the state.
Okay.
So I have.
Can I go to
some
Greg
light-
real quick,
yeah,
because he
no.
had his hand up. Greg, go ahead.
Yes, hi, thank you. I just want Rye to confirm, I was under the impression that the federal government is the one that expects the Board of County Commissioners to have the, make the decision regarding the airport. And that ballot measure, in essence, takes away, through the Home Rule Charter, takes away our authority to do that, which would be basically in violation of, I thought was federal. You're saying, is this a state rule? Could you just confirm that, or is it both?
I think you may have misheard me, Greg. What I was saying is that that both local law, most directly on point, the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter, and state law grant or provide or vest authority over the airport with the BoCC. Now, the FAA approves through their regulatory power certain aspects of what happens at the airfield and has jurisdiction in that space over things like airport operations and layout and that kind of thing as well. So I think you may have just misheard me, but maybe I misunderstood your question.
No, I think we're getting closer.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure we understood and the public understands what, what this charter amendment would do and what our charter amendment is designed to do, in response to that.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I did misunderstand your question. The FAA does have regulatory authority over the airport, and in connection with funding, namely grants and things like that we've received from the FAA in the past, we have entered into contractual arrangements with the FAA in the form of grant assurances that do require the BoCC to maintain jurisdiction over the airfield and over the airport.
So
Great, thank you. That clarifies it.
yeah, it's in the amendment language. It's not in the ballot language, but it's in the amendment language where it says
Without limitation
improvement
for each of.
deemed necessary. In the first paragraph, somewhere there, second paragraph.
Says it at the very bottom sentence, I think, of the first paragraph. Is that what you're?
Yes, that's right. Does not breach any existing grant agreement with the FAA, including without limited breach of any assurances. Yeah.
Patty.
I'm going to go to something a little easier. I would like to add to and it's in the ballot language where it says, and I appreciate that, as far as growth consistent with community values, I think we need to put that in the text, the text proposed amendment.
Say that again, please, Patty.
In the ballot language, it says, manages growth consistent with community values. I want to add that into section 2.77. That needs to be in that language. And in that language, in section 2.7.7, I want to take out increase ease of access to the airport because that's confusing. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Access by cars, by planes, by people, and it's not in the ballot language. We say decrease vehicle traffic to and from the airport, which is, I think, part of what the discussion is ongoing now about multimodal transportation, which I think the community supports. So I think we can take that out of the text to the Home Rule Charter.
Or put it in the same language that's in the charter.
Well, I'm saying in the ballot question.
No, I know. Oh,
The ballot question does not include increased ease of access.
no, I agree with you. We should take it out of 2.7.7.
Yeah.
But do you want to replace it with decreases vehicle traffic to and?
It's already, that's in there right next to it. Reduce vehicle traffic to and from the
Oh,
airport
yeah,
is in the
you're right.
next
So we
sentence.
just have to take it out. Okay.
Yeah, but we need to add to the text the section about managing growth consistent with community values.
Yeah, good point.
To the proposed
Good
amendment.
catch.
And then for me, I think the ballot language clarifies to the public what came out of the 18 months plus of community effort to help us create the vision recommendations to the BoCC, especially the really positive things about pollution, noise, reducing traffic, and in managing growth, consistent with what the policies are that we hold so near and dear to our heart here in Pickens County. I think that those are really key things. And I think that language just further supports the community efforts, community-wide efforts, 120 something people. Yeah, that spent a great deal of time and energy helping us move forward. And I think that really clarifies that for me.
So on that note, can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask, should we, or is there a reason we should not reference that BoCC approval or the common ground recommendations in the ballot language?
I don't know. I'm trying to keep it so, again, in talking to people in the community, it's been interesting. I've had phone calls with people asking, well, the city of Aspen's ballot question about the airport, and I'm like, what city of Aspen? People are so confused. This is not, as we know well, this is not an easy issue, even without ballot issues. The airport itself is so, what's an ALP? What does this mean? People, you can study it for 20 years and still have questions because it's that complex. I was trying to aim for a ballot question that doesn't reference to a lot of document, that references to the points of the resolution that we passed coming out of the vision process.
I think, though, in
Makes
response
sense?
to your question, Kelly, that the Coalition for a 21st Century Airport is going to have a pretty strong campaign in which that is mentioned. Mm-hmm. It has the history of everything that happened on its front page, on its website, and I think there'll be outreach to citizens about the fact that this has been approved by the BoCC, it's been approved by the Airport Advisory Board, all the points in it came from the Visioning Committee, and has
Sure.
all of that kind of language.
I just wonder if people are going to be like, is this that?
Yeah, yes, right. That's a good point, yeah.
People are, and one
Like, are they asking us for a specific project plan or just, general project approval?
Well, I think that when the language that's so well written, including the location and design of the airport, that allows us to move forward. I think people will understand that rather than referring to a resolution. But most people don't even. They don't even know what that means. What a resolution? What's the process? I'm trying to keep it. Wishful thinking, maybe on my part. Keep it.
I get what you mean now, though.
Yeah.
What you're asking is, are people going to recognize this as moving the runway to the west and extending the distance between the runway and the taxiway? Mm-hmm. Is that what this is? That's what they're going to say. Well, is that what this is?
Right.
But if we put in there the ALP, they're going to go, what in the hell is an ALP?
It does say the physical layout rather than the ALP, which is probably a good idea.
As it was originally put together, it had referenced the airport layout plan specifically. I felt like that was a little too bit of an amorphous of a term, one, because there have been historical ALPs that have been approved. There's been proposed ALPs, there could be future ALPs, so I tried to make it a little bit more generic and say that it was the location and design of the airfield itself. Now, we can add or take away a specific reference to relocating the runway or expanding the runway if that's what the board wants to do. You'll see down in the proposed text of the amendment, there is a specific reference to runway expansion or relocation. That is not in the submission clause up here.
No, I get that. I
So-
think what I was trying to get at is, do we want the voters to affirm our common ground project? which we have formally adopted and amended once, you know, that has a map and a layout, and it's all very, like, it's very clearly spelled out what that project is. Like, are we asking for the voters to affirm that project in its specific, or are we asking the voters to approve what that project achieves in general, which is what I think this says.
And it might even say, are we asking the voters to approve our power to do anything in terms of the layout? Doesn't have to be the currently submitted ALP.
Right.
Could be something else.
And, but I see where Kelly's going, but, and I understand that, but again, I think that's gonna confuse people more than just spelling out the points that we have that puts it there without them having to go, what is the vision committee, what, you know, and that's gonna be part of educating the public as we move through the campaign for this ballot question, if we choose to put it on. I think that's where we can bring in that information rather than put it in the ballot language.
So this is like forever language, rather than having something like, to approve and implement an airport layout plan currently submitted to the FAA. That limits it in time. So you want this to be forever language?
Correct. The way this is currently drafted is this is not approving a specific project or a specific plan. It is reaffirming the BoCC's authority over any upcoming project, including the one currently contemplated by the ALP that has been submitted to the FAA, as well as any future changes to the airfield involving the design or.
Okay.
So it is for forever. Sure, it's future, it's prospective, right? It's not seeking to approve
only this.
simply a current project, but it would so that everybody understands, it is designed to address the ability to relocate the runway to the west.
So this is the vote from the public to proceed with the BoCC submitting a plan for the airport.
From what I understand to be the mandate in the proposed amendment to the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter that has been submitted through the initiative process, the mandate to have a vote on relocating or expanding the runway to the west would be satisfied through this action.
And who else thinks that besides you? No offense.
I do. Don't I, Cal?
Well, I think section 2 spells that out.
It does. But you say, as I understand, and I'm wondering, are there other attorneys who understand it that way?
No, I mean, when I read this language, I believe it satisfies that. If you want to include in the submission clause that this is authorizing, I mean, we could do this in a much simpler way if we wanted to, right? We wouldn't have to amend the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter to accomplish the task of submitting a question to the voters that directly says, shall the BoCC be authorized to, or I guess that would be also a potential amendment. You could simply put the question to the voters. Shall the runway be expanded or relocated
According
X
to
amount
blah,
of
blah,
feet
blah,
to
blah.
the west?
But that wouldn't prevent future things. This would prevent future challenges.
Again, reaffirms our authority and our
Yeah.
duty.
Whereas if we just put this current ALP to a vote, that would just be this one-time thing. This covers future possible challenges. Right?
Yes, and it's hard because we're talking about a realm of hypotheticals here, right? In the circumstance where the proposed home rule charter amendment requiring a vote on relocating the runway passes, so there's a yes vote on that. Potentially that could limit future changes that the BoCC may want to accomplish out at the airport. What this would do is say that project, relocating the runway to the west, as well as future changes to the runway configuration out at the airfield, similarly could be accomplished through the BoCC's jurisdiction and authority over the airport.
Okay.
Patty, go ahead.
For me, first of all, I would rather not having to be messing with the home rule charter, but I think we do have to include this amendment in the charter to make it clear, the future. But for me, putting this question to the voters is what the petitioned ballot is asking us to do. So we're doing what they're putting to the voters to ask us to do. So we're putting it to the voters and saying, okay, we acknowledge the democratic process, the right to vote on this, and we're putting a question on for the voters to vote on. So, you know, technically, we don't need that petitioned question because we're putting it, if we choose to move this forward, we're putting it to a vote.
Is it protestable?
Everything is protestable.
I was about to say that. There's all sorts of avenues to try and challenge language in this regard, you know. I think that, or I know that the board has the authority to put this on the ballot this fall if that's something the BoCC would like to do.
Okay.
Rye, I had posed to you a question related to timing on all of this. I have two questions. Do we need to articulate effective as of dates in our referred measure? And do we need to make our referred measure conditional on the outcome of the initiated petition?
Sure. I don't have an answer to the latter question that you have, whether it can be conditioned on the outcome of another amendment to the, I don't see why it couldn't be, but I'll have to think about that a little bit more. This would be effective once it's passed by the voters of Pickens County.
On November 5th at 9 o'clock?
It's certified.
It'll be
Yeah,
effective.
once the election results have all been, I'm gonna get the terminology wrong and Ingrid's gonna be like, that's not what.
Like the
it means."
17th of November,
Kelly
whatever
knows
I believe
that
it.
it's,
is.
I
Kelly
believe
knows
it's the
it. It's
15th
certified,
or
yeah.
something like
That's
that. but-
15th or 17th, or, okay.
Okay, because I guess I wasn't sure if there was like amendments to the home rule charter take effect immediately or take effect 30 days.
An ordinance typically becomes effective 30 days after.
But the home rule charter amendment is immediate.
And in the state level, when they put a question on, it's usually effective January 1st of that following year.
I'll double check the home rule charter again before tomorrow.
Make sure, because
But I haven't seen any limitation in that. There is certainly something with an ordinance, but I'll double check the home rule charter provision again.
I just, if we need to say it's effective December 6th, you know.
I'll
or
double
whatever.
check that one more time.
Okay. Steve or Greg, any? So I guess I'll ask one more question. While you guys brainstorm your questions, where will the voters have full access to the text of the proposed amendment?
Yeah.
You should know that, Kelly.
But I don't,
I
because
don't
this is
either.
not a tax measure, so it will not go in the local
Blue book.
Tabor
Yeah.
But it'll go in the
pamphlet.
especially in the Democratic book, if we can get that.
We don't, well, I don't know. Where do we make it available to people?
So there's a couple ways. One is the resolution, including any attachments, are published on the Pitkin County website as required by the Home Rule Charter. And that, in this circumstance, needs to take place no less than 10 days in advance of the BoCC's proposed action on August 28th.
That's
The
Thanksgiving.
text of the resolution,
Can't wait.
as well as the text of the proposed amendment to the Home Rule Charter will also be published. Now, the reference to BoCC resolution in the submission clause is typically how the language on the home rule, or I'm sorry, on the ballot is referred to on its face. Because like we talked about, the text of the proposed amendment isn't on the ballot. What is the reference to the resolution approving it. So those are all roundabout ways of saying that voters will essentially need to look either at the resolution the BoCC passes or not on August 28th, and or the publications that go out with that in advance of November. Ingrid and I talked about printing the text of both this proposed amendment as well as the citizen-initiated proposed amendment. It's not required. The ballot is already very lengthy and burdensome with all the state questions and this question. So it would behoove the board to make the submission clause, which is the ballot title, and as clear and concise as possible for the sake of clarity.
I would maybe suggest for consideration to possibly work with Ingrid's office about doing a special insert in the Tabor booklet on this.
Because it's a home rule charter amendment, and that's really,
Both of them.
that's a significant, and we don't do it often. We do home rule charter cleanups a lot. Not a lot, but it's not unusual, just cleaning up language and clarifying. But this significant, I mean, to amend it is not something we do on a regular basis, so I think that makes it special. Sorry to say, but
Special.
special.
Like
Anyway, because the voters will receive information about all the local tax questions. This could just be sort of an insert in that.
Okay.
These
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Right, I'm wondering about the last page of what you gave us, Appendix A. It's about the solid waste center bonds.
That was missing, that was inappropriately printed into our packet. I brought that up to
We don't
Ryan.
have to, we could just pull that off of here, right? And,
Yeah, sorry, that was
great, I just wanted to make sure.
It got stuck in the packet,
Got
because
stuck
I
in
asked Ryan about it earlier. I'm like, were we doing this today too?
that was probably,
It was just a
Form.
glitch in the printing
Okay, no
system.
worries.
no, good catch. That's confusing, for sure.
I thought it was just my printer being my printer.
It does seem as though this, which is accessible by the public, is pretty thorough.
It's very thorough.
The AIS and the resolution.
Yeah.
Tried to keep
The
it as,
agenda item summary,
yeah, I tried to keep it as concise as possible.
really good.
As was the one with the housing, the ass with
Let's
housing.
put a couple of semicolons in there, but other than that, it's pretty good.
Well,
Stops.
I just
Those are
wanted to make it
stops.
readable.
syntax
like
and punctuation
semicolons.
is important.
I didn't really understand it till she went, stop, stop. Then I went, oh, I get it now.
Exactly. It's the power of punctuation.
That's a whole class when you're in law school, right?
I wish.
They had a contest when Trevor was in middle school, I think, it was a colon, where do you put, no, the comma club. And Trevor was one of the leaders. I'm like, I think he's just guessing where they, put a comma here, and we'll put a comma there. And at the end of the day, he was right. I am
Okay,
looking
is
forward
there
to public.
other discussion on this item?
Cannot be modified with the participation. Hang on one second.
I think the public comment tomorrow will be very helpful if we have some further suggestions coming forward.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's the third paragraph, the first being partial, on the second page of the agenda item summary. It says, significantly, Pickens County as the airport sponsor has received federal funding in the form of grants from the FAA, which have been used for improvements and maintenance of the airport. And the airport cannot be modified with the participation and approval of the FAA?
Yeah, I think the airfield, I'm probably meant to write airfield cannot be modified without the participation.
It
and
says
approval.
with the
So, yeah, it should say
participation.
without.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Doesn't say without. Should say without, right?
I'm lost. Oh, here we go.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
The third sentence up
Oh,
above.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it should say the airport cannot be modified without the
Yes,
participation
that should be
and approval.
changed right away
Thank you.
on the website.
You know what, there was one other thing.
And you wanted to say airfield instead of airport? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it
No, we don't
No, I
need-
think we'd leave
but
airport because that gives
change
us
that.
more latitude.
Rich, who will change that?
I can change
You'll
it
change
today.
it?
Sure.
On the website, so it's not in there anymore?
Well, they'll come out with a new AIS for tomorrow.
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Without the landfill being part of it.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
are you ready, Madam Chair?
I believe so. Let me check in with our colleagues online. Steve and Greg, it looks like we are concluding discussion for today unless you have more to bring up.
I'm fine with the slight change that's been suggested today on the punctuation. I'm presuming that at the first reading, especially with public input, that we will be, fully have the power to make more changes at that point if we so deem them to be desirable.
Yeah, we can work on the language tomorrow as well, and ultimately what the BoCC, if the BoCC approves that language on first reading tomorrow, that's what would be set for second reading on the 28th.
So tomorrow's when we absolutely want to get the wording, if there's any changes, have to be done by tomorrow.
That would be best.
To meet the whole timeline, yeah.
Yeah, the
Let me
timeline we're
ask-
working
yeah.
off of is the submission to the state on September 6th.
Have any colleagues received any substantive language changes to this that not everyone on this board has seen?
We got something from George Newman,
Yes.
and I can't figure out how it fits in.
There is also the language, I think I read it to you before. Give me a second.
I just
bring it
wonder, it may behoove us to work through that now, since this is our first reading. And while Francie pulls that up, Greg, I'll go to you.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with what I've heard, and with the changes that have been made today and the corrections. Of course, we'll want to see what we come up with by the end of the day, at the end of the day before our meeting tomorrow, just so I can review it. So hopefully Rye can send that to us. So I feel pretty good about this. I get everything that I wanted to see in there is in there. And I haven't received any other comments from anyone else in the community, but we are giving the opportunity for comment on this twice. So there will be the opportunity to share regarding that. Thanks.
I have a procedural question.
Yes, Patty.
So, Rye, if tomorrow, if on the second, if it moves to second reading on the 28th, we have public comment. If the board decides there's something that we hear from the public that would change any of this substantially, we could then move it to a third reading. Would we have to do that? So we could always call a special meeting to have a third reading before the deadline of September 6th.
Oh, that's the wrong.
So I think the language, we had some language suggested to us by the Community Coalition for a 21st Century Airport, which gave us some thought process, we're thinking about. But I think this language before us, that the board, had some discussions now about what we wanted to put in there, and working with Rye. Rye did a great job of putting our brains on paper, which is not always easy to do. And I think it touches on those key elements, again, that the community has supported in the past, and I believe the community will support at the ballot boxes, polling places.
Ready?
Yes.
It said,
So Francie's bringing up some suggestions for changes. It'll be great to hear those now. Thank you.
shall there be an amendment to the county charter, which should be the right language, to authorize and direct the BoCC to approve an airport layout plan for the Aspen-Pitkin County Airport that meets federal requirements to address out-of-date infrastructure, make critical safety improvements to provide more separation between planes during takeoff, taxiing, takeoff, and landing. And I believe we talked about that once before, but
Read that second phrase again, so address out-of-date
to
infrastructure.
make
and
critical
then-
safety improvements, to provide more separation between planes during taxiing, takeoff, and landing.
Okay.
That's confusing. I mean, you have to be you can't tailgate the plane taking off, or is that separation because you're on the taxiway when a plane is coming in or going out? Yeah, it's not very clear.
I would say, I don't think we need to say address out-of-date infrastructure because the ballot language already says updates in infrastructure. If we can resolve that input.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes critical safety improvement to create more separation.
If you say between the taxiway, there's a lot of people will think you're talking about the taxis parked in front of the airport. A lot of people don't know when you say.
People know
Yeah,
about
sure.
planes taxiing.
They don't know about taxiways, or when you say the tarmac versus.
I think most people do. I'm not sure I agree with you on that. The
So the
third
question
one
is
that I
do we
didn't
want to
read-
just say improve safety, big bucket, versus improve safety to
Yeah.
create more separation?
I think shorter is better, probably.
Well, improved safety covers the wind factor. That's a big
Includes
thing.
a lot of things, but.
It
And the
includes.
third item was without increasing taxes.
We're not putting that in.
But we're not supposed to put that in because it might interfere with future bonding issues and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
It's true, though, that all these
We can-
improvements won't cost anybody anything. I mean, sure, they pay federal taxes that the FAA uses, but.
Okay. All right. Have there been other suggestions submitted that the board should consider right now?
I think it's good, and let's see what the public comes in and tells us tomorrow. But, so I would like to make a motion to continue this item, continue the first reading until tomorrow at our regular meeting, when we will be taking public comment. Is that all you need from us?
I believe so. There is a general, you did not want me to add the separation language.
No, we're just
I
gonna
don't think
keep it
so.
improved safety. With the changes that we made today, bring forward a clean copy of a ballot question and language for a proposed text amendment to the Home Rule Charter.
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved by Patty, seconded by Francie to continue first reading to tomorrow, where we will take public comment. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And I will make a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to adjourn special meeting by Patty, seconded by Francie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And then, if
Thanks,
it's okay
staff.
with the board, since we are finishing a few minutes early, Greg had an additional open discussion item that he wanted to bring up today. Greg, do you want to do that now? You sent me the
Thank you
email.
for reminding me, that's great. We just received a notice from CCI, I'm sorry, I'm in another time zone, so I don't know what I was going to bring to you. It was CC4CA, an action alert regarding congressional appropriation language that would be banning funding for DEI and climate resilience. And so CC4CA is distributing a letter among county commissioners to the House and Senate appropriation staffers regarding an effort to include language in appropriations legislation that would block programs and activities related to diversity, equity, and climate resilience. This letter that we would be signing on to encourages members of Congress to oppose this language. So they're trying to restrict discussion of this, including climate resilience. Would be signing on a letter against that. And I think it's all been forwarded to all of you in your email.
Yeah, it's in our
And
email.
we could, it has to be responded to by Tuesday, the 20th. So I think we'd like to get this done. If we could agree to sign on to this today, we could just move that forward.
I would need to read it, and I can't contemplate
Yeah,
this,
take
and
a
this
look at
fine
your
print.
email, we'll review it tonight, we could talk about it tomorrow.
Great.
Okay, any other
That's all I've
items?
got.
Thank you, Greg. Any other items for today's work session? Okay, seeing none, thank you, everyone. We will see you tomorrow starting at noon for our regular session.
Great, thank you.
Cheers.
Alrighty, good job, Kelly, as usual.
Thank you.
I think I have to go to.
Thank you.